There ain't no future unless we build it now. There ain't no future unless we build it now. United States, Africa, we salute ya. A new state of mind, I introduce ya. Close your eyes and visualize the rise of a new paradigm. Solar powered skyscrapers.
Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, a podcast dedicated to inspiring African people worldwide to rise up, organize, and struggle for Pan-Africanism, a unified, liberated, socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of African people, no matter where they happen to be born or happen to live in the world. Now please, welcome the hosts of Africa Must Unite.
Africa's future is now, so get ready.
Greetings. My name is Mama D.
And I am Brother Melvin.
All right, and we are the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, and this is Africa Must Unite podcast. We are so happy to be here again. Isn't that right, Melvin?
Absolutely. Podcast 34, number 34.
Woo!
Super excited.
Yes. We're getting
34.
That's right. We're getting ready to enter the fourth year of doing our podcast. We are very thankful, very thankful. So, as usual, I guess we're going to start off with the calendar dates.
Absolutely. Let's go for the month of October. Just some important dates in our history that we want to make sure that we're recognizing and keeping in the forefront as we finish off this month. But let's remind you of some days that have passed. So on October 1st, Nigeria gains independence in 1960. Victory of the Chinese People's Revolution was in 1949. On October 2nd, Nat Turner, African freedom fighter, was born in 1800. Also on October 2nd, the Mau Mau Rebellion in Kenya begins in 1952. On October 4th, D.C. City Council approved divestment in South Africa bill in 1983. Also on October 4th, Vo Nguyen Giap, revolutionary leader and hero of the Vietnam People's Army and Politburo member of the Vietnam Workers' Party, died in 2013. October 6th, Fannie Lou Hamer, African freedom fighter, was born in 1917. On October 7th, we have H.H. Reynolds, African inventor, patented the bridge safety gate in 1890. Also on October 7th, Elijah Muhammad, African leader of the Nation of Islam, was born in 1897. Also, October 7th, Amir Baraka, formerly Leroy Jones, writer and activist, was born in 1934. October 8th, also my daughter's birthday, quick plug, Jesse Jackson, African activist, was born in 1941. October 9th, Cuban revolutionary Che Guevara, freedom fighter, was killed in Bolivia in 1967. Also on October 9th, Uganda Independence Day, 1962. October 10th, we recognize Gabriel Prosser, leader of slave rebellion in the Richmond, Virginia area, was executed in 1800. On October 11th, the Solidarity Day for political prisoners in South Africa. October 12th, Elmer S. Imes, African astrophysicist, worked along with Einstein and others in developing quantum theory of physics in 1883. Don't always get credit for that, but as equal of a genius, we have Elmer S. Imes also participating in that quantum theory. Mm-hmm. October 13th, Angela Davis was arrested on false murder and kidnapping charges in 1970. On October 13th as well, Joe Anderson, African slave, helped invent the grain harvester reaper in 1831. October 14th, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Also on the 14th, Julius Nyerere, first president of Tanzania, died in 1999. October 15th, John Brown, anti-slavery freedom fighter, raided Harper's Ferry in 1859. Also on the 15th, Thomas Sankara, a Pan-Africanist and president of Burkina Faso, assassinated in 1987. On October 16th, we have Jean Dessalines, the revolutionary leader of Haiti, was assassinated in 1806. Also on the 16th, the Communist Party in Algeria opened Congress in 1936. On October 17th, we have author, historian, and the writer of the great Before the Mayflower, Laurent Bennett Jr. was born in 1928. October 18th, we have the Black Consciousness Movement of Azania, which was banned in 1977. On the 18th, hundreds of Zimbabweans, refugees, were killed in a Rhodesian air raid in Lusaka in 1978. On October 19th, I know we have a lot of days here, but we want to make sure that we're recognizing African contributions and those who have really paved the way for us to do the things that we're able to do today. So we stand on the shoulders of giants. We want to recognize these great women and men. And so we'll get these dates in, so bear with us. On October 19th, Maurice Bishop, Grenadian Prime Minister and revolutionary leader of the New Jewel Movement, was murdered in 1983. Also on the 19th, Omar Gaddafi, the leader of the Socialist People's Libyan Arab Jamahiriya, was assassinated by the imperialist puppets Transitional National Council in 2011.
That just means they were the puppets of the imperialists, you know.
All it was, and obviously, who had a great hand in that piece as well.
Oh, yes.
On October 20th, there was a mass revolt in St. Vincent against Great Britain's raising of prices of 1935. On October 20, Jesse Owens, African athlete who won 4 gold medals in Germany at the time when Hitler was preaching European supremacy. That was in 1938. Also on the 20th, we have our 5th Pan-African Congress, which opened in London in 1945. Some of the greatest progenitors of Pan-Africanism met at that Congress.
That's right. Not only Du Bois, but Kwame Nkrumah too, and many others.
Yes. October 21st, students and workers in Sudan demonstrated against General Aboud's racist policies in the South. That was in 1964. On October 22nd, we have Sojourner Truth, who spoke at the Women's Rights Convention in Ohio in 1851. Also, on the 22nd, one of the most famous pictures between John Carlos and Tommy Smith gave the historic Black Power salute at the 1968 Olympics. Mm-hmm. On October 23rd, we have Mary Moodley, the determined fighter against barbarous regime in South Africa, died in 1979 after spending 16 of her last 19 years on banning orders imposed by that regime.
That's terrible.
Also on the 23rd, South Africa invaded Angola once again, which was in 1975. On October 24th, we have the October Revolution, created first socialist state in the USSR in 1917. Lucy Laney, African educator and womanist, died in 1933.
Mm-hmm.
Also, October 24th, we have Rosa Parks, who transitioned in 2005. On October 25th, U.S. and Caribbean puppets invade Grenada in 1983. Also on the 25th, racist South Africa conducted its first nuclear test explosion in 1979. October 26th, racist South Africans declared Transkei the first independent Bantustan in 1976. On October 27th, Ruby Davis, actress and activist, was born in 1922. On October 28th, Levi Coffin, African organizer of the Underground Railroad, was born in 1798. October 29th, J. Standard, African inventor, patented the oil stove in 1889. October 30th, Britain, France, and Israel invaded Egypt to try to overthrow Nasser government in 1956. And then finally, on October 31st, Ethel Waters, African singer and actress, was born in 1896.
we are filled with important dates in not only African history, as you just said, and as well in any progressive people's dates, So I mean, you talk about USSR as the first socialist state, and many others who contributed, Native people who contributed, anybody who is out there. Isn't that right, Melvin? Working for the people.
Absolutely.
We want to celebrate. And one big oversight we have, but we're going to correct it in our 2021 calendar. We left off Samora Michel's death date on the 19th. Samora Michel died in 1986, and such a great contribution he made in terms of Pan-Africanism, period. But, he was struggling in Mozambique. But, we always quote a famous thing that he said, and that is, we do not want to Africanize exploitation. You remember that quote, Melvin?
Absolutely. It's one of the pieces that we continue to study, and that is a permanent part of our political education platform.
That's true. Establishing people's power to serve the masses. You can't get a better title than that, in terms of what he stood for, and it's not just about changing somebody's face and putting that face up there if the economic system is still going to be one that exploits, So it's not just about Africanizing exploitation, It's such a key thing. Well, all this year we have been focusing on revolutionary Pan-African socialist organizations, those at home and those in the diaspora, whose objective is a unified socialist Africa. And we've been doing this because we believe that our people should know about the organizations that are out there struggling to bring about a permanent solution to their exploitation and oppression. In Class Struggle in Africa, Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah wrote, quote, "The total liberation and unification of Africa under an all-African socialist government must be the primary objective of all Black revolutionaries throughout the world. It is an objective which, when achieved, will bring about the fulfillment of the aspirations of Africans and people of African descent everywhere." And we believe in that. We say, Africa must be unified. It must be socialist. And all the organizations that we are highlighting and featuring this year, these revolutionary Pan-African socialist organizations, are determined to work together in order to more effectively politically educate our people, and thus to more quickly bring into existence a unified socialist Africa. And, because that's the only way the wealth that is generated from the richest continent in the world, Africa, will be used to benefit all African people, no matter where they happen to be born or to live in the world. And that's why we are highlighting these wonderful, hard-working organizations out there. And Melvin, guess who we celebrate today?
Who are we celebrating today? What Pan-African organization are we highlighting today?
Woo! It is us, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party.
PRSP, absolutely.
We've been going in alphabetical order. So, we here we are in letter P, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. So, when we put together our 2020 calendar, we arranged all the contributors from revolutionary Pan-African organizations throughout the world. We arranged them alphabetically. And so for the month of October, we come. And so today, we want to read the statement that we included on our calendar and then talk about some of the programs that we sponsor and some of the activities and propaganda that we produce. So let me start off by reading the statement that's on our calendar. The Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, PRSP, is a revolutionary organization committed to bringing about Pan-Africanism, the liberation and unification of Africa under a socialist economic system. The PRSP is convinced that this objective is the only permanent solution to the problems our people face throughout the world. Our organization understands clearly that power comes from a wealthy land base, and the only land base which rightfully belongs to African people is Africa. Africa is potentially the richest land base on earth, and until Africa is free, united, and socialist and under the control of Africans dedicated to developing their homeland for the benefit and welfare of African people, wherever they happen to be born or to live in the world, until that time, no African will ever be free. The PRSP is also convinced that it is absolutely imperative that the exploited and oppressed masses of Africans throughout the world get organized in order to coordinate and unify our common struggle for liberation. Hence, it is necessary to build revolutionary Pan-African socialist parties and coalitions. As Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah stated in Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare back in 1968, he wrote, quote, "An All-African Committee for Political Coordination, AACPC, should be established to act as a liaison between all parties which recognize the urgent necessity of conducting an organized and unified struggle against colonialism and neocolonialism," end quote. So we say today, let's build this All-African Committee for Political Coordination. That's the whole purpose of this whole year, Melvin, to bring all of us as revolutionary Pan-African organizations together to work for this common objective. Because we know a union of African socialist states is not only possible, it's on the horizon. So that's that's the statement we submitted. And of course, you can reach us by mailing anything to us at our P.O. Box. We are the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, P.O. Box 12311, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53212. You can visit our webpage on prsponline.org, or you can visit us on our Facebook. Facebook.com/Pan-African Socialist / or you can hear all of our podcasts for nearly completed 3 years, right? Our Africa Must Unite podcast at SoundCloud.com. So that is what we submitted to our 2020 calendar. And now we just want to talk about some of the programs that we deal with, activities and propaganda. We'll bring on some other Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party members to also talk about what they're doing in their different geopolitical areas. So I guess...
I think, and thank you for that, Mama D. It's always, interesting when you have to introduce yourself and your organization. You just want to make sure that we're highlighting all the things that we're doing, but we understand that our work is part of a larger sort of piece that we want to do in terms of working towards our objective of Pan-Africanism. Yeah. So we're one organization, one Pan-Africanist revolutionary organization, working towards that unified socialist Africa objective, and it bleeds through everything that we do, and that we attempt to do with our programs and different involvement within the city of Milwaukee for us. But like you said, we have circles in Chicago, Virginia, on the continent, back at home. So hopefully we'll hear from those individuals as well. But real briefly, I want to talk about just two of the programs that we work on, that we work towards annually. And first one being our Watoto Uhuru Shule, which is Swahili for Children's Freedom School. Our Children's Freedom School, we offer bi-weekly, and I know it's been a little difficult during this COVID time, so we're kind of in this distance reality as well, but we're still doing our very best to make sure that we are engaging and connecting with the young people and the families who are interested in learning more about themselves. But the way when we talk about our Watoto Yuhu Shule, the way I used to think about it was that we were attempting to supplement the education that some of our young people are getting when they go into the school system and that institution. But really, when we think about it, is what we're actually doing is providing those foundational skills, and then that is supplemented in terms of what is learned throughout the content in their public school setting. But what we're doing is providing our young people with those foundational skills that'll stay with them throughout their entire educational experience. So some of the topics that we discuss in Watoto Yuhu Shule, and what we should also recognize is that we have our little Watotos all the way from 2 to 3 years old up until 18, 19 years old. So students have matriculated our Watoto Yuhu Shule as infants and have gone all the way through college and graduated college.
That's true.
Yeah. So, and we're proud of that.
Wow.
And we can see how the information and what they've learned is still with those young people. It's in our sons and our daughters and our nieces and nephews and our circle of friends, and that we call our extended family.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the topics that we talk about, really, like I said, provide those foundational sort of educational structures for our young people, so that when they go back into the school systems, they're able to advocate for themselves. They're able to challenge notions of history that is being provided to them, and they're able to interrogate systems because they have a stronger understanding of who they are as individuals and as a people as a whole, right? So talking about identity is an important piece that is expressed throughout Watoto Yuhu Shule. The history of Native American people, the history of Africa, the continent where we come from, right? Where
yes.
The land base that we're attached to,
Mm-hmm.
Our homeland. So that is something that is expressly taught throughout the experience of our young people during the Watoto Yuhu Shule. Obviously, they learn about the Infokani and the transatlantic slave trade, and really the resistance and
Yes.
the struggle that our people fought and resisted against that. So, and we talk about resistance. We talk about colonialism, neo-colonialism, self-defense, current reality. All of these topics are expressed and talked about, and it's broken down for our younger Watotos, from the 3-year-olds to the 10-year-olds, to our teenagers, and then into our young adults as well, who then become facilitators of some of the learning for the younger people. And also during our Watoto Yuhu Shule, when we are in physical connection with each other, we provide a vegetarian meal, so we also trying to promote healthy lifestyle, healthy living, healthy choices. And all of this is provided free to any family that is interested in wanting to learn more about themselves and to provide, like I said, those foundational skills that our young people need. We see, I'm an educator myself, and we see districts around the country talking about equity this and equity that, and it seems to be a buzzword. But what we're seeking to do with our young people is provide those pieces that affirms them first and foremost. So when they go into these spaces, whether it's a diverse setting or if it's culturally homogenous or whatever, they know who they are as individuals, and they know who their people are, and they know their struggle. So that's important for us. And hopefully, we're doing a really good job with making sure our young people are walking away with those experiences and that understanding.
I just want to add two little things, Melvin, and it's such a wonderful statement in terms of what we try to do, because the whole purpose is to provide our history, culture, and current reality to our children, which we know they're not getting in the way that they should be getting in the school system, like you mentioned. But also, like you said, we reinforce foundational skills. So whether it's reading and math or how to analyze and all those kinds of things come through. And we started, back in 1988. Isn't that something?
Right.
In one of our houses, we were meeting and said, because the youth are the spark of the revolution. The youth will be the spark of African revolution. So, if we're not doing our job of teaching our youth, we're letting the capitalists raise our youth. And we see what's going on throughout the world with our youth in terms of how things are out of control. The whole capitalist value system of it's me, myself, and I, and so I'll hit my grandmama on the head or somebody who is like my grandmama and take her car or do this to her or whatever, that we are all born newborn babies and innocent. So this is capitalism raising our children. So it's a vital thing. We always thought, isn't that right, Melvin, that we got to take our children in hand and teach them. And we said, well, how are we going to do it this year? Well, we have to get out of ourselves and say, we're going to do this virtually. So we are doing this Watoto Uhuru Shule School virtually. And tomorrow we are dealing with identity, So you got to start with who we are. We're not black. We're not African American, hyphenated. We are African. And that's the first thing we teach our Watotos. So thank you, Melvin, for that explanation of the importance of educating our youth.
Yeah, absolutely. So along with, Watoto Uhuru Shule, we another program that we connect with the community around is our annual Kwanzaa celebration. And I think it's a unique experience because, obviously Kwanzaa has 7 principles, and each day one of the principles is celebrated. And we thank Dr. Malana Karinga for that piece. And so what we do is connecting with different organizations throughout the city. We determine which day that we're going to celebrate, identify a space, community center. And for us, it's for the last few years been our African Women's Center. That has allowed us to utilize that space to conduct many of our programs, actually. But what we do for Kwanzaa Day, it's an opportunity for us to again, celebrate Kwanzaa, and Dr. Malana Karinga pulling for some traditional African sort of ideas and customs and traditions. We celebrate one of the 7 principles of the Nguzo Saba. I know last year we had Kuji Chagalia and was talking about self-determination, but also within that time, within that space, we're able to utilize opportunity to just give the people a little bit of something about who we are and why we think Pan-Africanism is important as an objective for our people. And we talk about some of our African principles that guide us, the humanism, the collectivism, and the egalitarianism that guides us as a people and as an organization. But also try to engage our people with fun activities around Kwanzaa time, connecting with the community, connecting with families, and just being able to celebrate our people, being able to celebrate each other, and come together in unison to, eat, have some merriment, have some fun, but also, more importantly, learn about, our people, learn about our struggle, and connect that principle of the day to some of the work that we're doing as an organization and how our organization is speaking to connect with other organizations doing similar things, right, around really just talking about how we move forward as a people. For us, we talk about Pan-Africanism, and we hope that we're able to connect with other groups and organizations so that we can at least break bread around a common thing, and that's just really working for African people, for us in the city of Milwaukee, but really worldwide.
Yes, And you know that you make a good point. I mean, and we try and we have been successful in providing a full meal, a vegetarian meal of all kinds of things, including the greens and everything else for free. Because we want people to come out and enjoy themselves. And, you know, what we've done, we appreciate the contribution of Karanga, but what we've done is to interpret the principles based on our own belief system, like Melvin was saying. So for Umoja, unity, we got one united states of Africa. For Kujichagulia, we are an African people. This is one thing that we try to do. Ujima, working together in the best interest of African people, the collective. Ujamaa, we got socialism, wealth that benefits all of the people, not just a few. In Nia, we want liberation. That's our purpose, you know. And Kuumba, we got to be creative, using our genius to free ourselves and free our continent. And Imani, we got faith in our sisters as well as our brothers and our whole objective. You know, so with some of these things, we try to celebrate Kwanzaa, Melvin said, you know, and connect with other organizations. And as he said, to present our perspective on these principles and the whole reason for celebrating Kwanzaa. So,
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that.
Oh, no, thank you. And, you know, the other thing that we do, you know, several different publications, but one of the things that we've been doing since 1984, without skipping 1 year, from 1984 up to this point, every year we produce a Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party calendar. And it's so interesting, Melvin, because the first, as you know, in 1984, the first calendar that was produced was just called PRSP. You know, since then we've had themes from 1985, the State of the African World, 1993, Voices of Thunder, Sisters in the Struggle, 1996,
yes.
I'm just skipping around, 1996, The Masses Are the Makers of History, 2000, year 2000, Pan-Africanism in the 21st Century, 2005, Capitalism and the Justice System. It's not justice, it's just us. In 2006, Hip Hop and Revolution. In 2007, A United Socialist Africa, the only solution for Africans at home and abroad. 2010, African males must reject capitalism's propaganda and participate in the full development of the African female. That was something, wasn't it, Melvin?
Oh my goodness, we need that one back. Let's bring that one back.
In 2018, The Internal Enemy. African people struggle against our own weaknesses. In 2020, this year, as you know, we concentrated on revolutionary Pan-African socialist organizations, those at home and those abroad. So I skipped around, but it's thanks to the people we've been able to produce these calendars, annual calendars, since 1984. And, you know, the other thing in terms of propaganda that we try to do is a series of leaflets. And just to mention the three most recent ones we produce is coronavirus. This is one. Corona is the virus. Capitalism is the disease. That's one. Another is not the man, i.e. the police. It's the plan, i.e. capitalism. The third one we just put out a week or so ago. It's bigger than the vote. The entire political process. The whole idea that, you know, just to pull a lever, as Mumia said, is not the answer. You have to be involved in every bit of decision making, from neighborhood, grassroots level, all the way up, all throughout the year. Not once or twice a year where you go and just vote for whomever had enough money to prop themselves up to be the person to vote for. You know what I mean? So we wanted to deal with that, and that's the reality you'll find in a socialist country or a place that's struggling for socialism. You want knowledgeable people. You want educated people. You don't want to stifle the vote or stifle the political process in terms of people making decisions for themselves. You want to encourage it. And, just a couple other quick points, because I know we want to bring on some other people. But, one of our biggest programs has been the Garvey Fest, that, again, is something that got started in 1988. And we want to do Garvey Fest because we recognize the important contribution of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, and pointing out people to and helping Nkrumah to see and others to see that Africa is our homeland. Africa for Africans, at home and abroad. That was the calling cry, wasn't it, Melvin?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, this organization gets started in 1914, and it was started not just by Marcus Garvey, but also Amy Ashwood Garvey. And we need to recognize that. And so many wonderful things that they made in terms of contributions, not just the red, black, and green flag. Red for the blood that we shed, black for the race that's us, green for the motherland, but the African Orthodox Church, the Universal African Legion, and Universal Black Cross Nurses, which was the most visible symbol of the UNIA, because people saw them throughout the neighborhoods, throughout the world, and they would go in and check on African people, the masses, and see, how they were doing in terms of their health. And we need that kind of thing again, don't we? And the Negro World, a weekly newspaper that they produced. But, the whole point is that, the whole idea was that we had to reclaim our homeland, Africa. And we need to deal with the unity and wealth that would be used for all African people, no matter where they happen to be born or to live in the world. So, this Pan-Africanism was something that Marcus Garvey, Amy Ashwood Garvey, Amy Jacques Garvey, and all the Garveyites believed in. And, he would say, and the organization would say, rise up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. So we celebrate the whole UNIA movement, Garvey Fest. We say, the only thing that we try to make clear today that we didn't do or that he wasn't so clear at the time when the organization was started was that the economic system of socialism is what we want. Because we want a wealthy continent, a unified continent, but what we want to do with the wealth is make sure that it's used for the health and welfare of all the people, not just 1% of the people. So, that's very important. And I'll leave with this quote that Garvey wrote. And it's, quote, we are determined to solve our own problems by redeeming our motherland, Africa, from the hands of alien exploiters, and found therein a government, nation of our own, strong enough to lend protection to the members of our race scattered all over the world and to compel the respect of the nations and races of the earth, end quote. That's a powerful statement, isn't it, Melvin?
Very powerful statement. Absolutely.
So we still celebrated Garvey Fest this year, and guess what? We had to do it virtually, but it happened. So we want to not let conditions stop us from trying to do a little education, trying to put a little political education out there, no matter if we're talking about our youth or adults or whomever. That's our role. That's the historic role that we've been bequeathed, so that we have to take up that that mantle and actually do our job. So that's some of the things we do. And of course, we could talk about some of the programs we used to do, like Tub and Michelle, and celebrating the women. Mm-hmm. The Malcolm X program. And what's the other one, Melvin? We used to do. Oh, man. The youth conference. So those are some things, but we want to bring on some of our other people throughout so that they can talk about what they're doing in their different areas. So that's what we...
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what we're going to do right now.
All right. And also, like we mentioned earlier, Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, we do have circles in other parts of the country and, like I said, on the continent as well. And what we want to do is reach out to some of those party members. First, we want to, let's take a trip a little south from where we are right now, about 90 miles south. We want to go to Chicago, the city of Chicago, and connect with our sister and brother, Kim Doof and Pa Doof, and have them talk to us about one of the programs that their circle conducts annually, which is their Nkrumah's Conference. So welcome, Sister Kim and Brother Paju.
Okay.
Welcome, Kim and Pa, to talk about the Nkrumah's Conference. How you two doing?
We're doing fine, African. How are you?
We are fine.
With you.
We are fine here. We were just talking about the programs that we do here, and we said we're going to go right to Kim and Pa Doof and have them talk about the years of the Nkrumah's Conference. And I don't even know, it's over 20 years, Kim and Pa?
Yes, it is. It's over 30 years.
Whoa. Oh, my goodness. Can you...
And you can call it, there were some pre-conferences or pre-Kwame Nkrumah conferences before 1983. When there was the formation of the party, and we had a party congress in Washington, D.C. in 1983.
Yes.
But prior to 83, we have many conferences in Chicago, try to consolidate, like the party in anticipation for the 83 conference. And post 1983, then we started to do these conferences every year. And if you recall, 9 or 8 of them were really in one household, at my house, building the conference. So yes, we
that
started
is
very, very hard.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah. So that's where we started, and the whole concept was tying up the Kwame Nkrumah conferences with the whole idea of the Nkrumah's magazine and also the calendar.
Yes.
And we started to make those connections in party building, but the whole purpose for the conference was to just internationalize the struggle. And if you recall, 83 all the way to 87 was a very, very critical moment in the South African struggle in South Africa.
Yes.
And there are a couple of our conferences at that time that emphasized the need to internationalize, like the party, and then emphasize the South African struggle. We had an 87 conference that talked about, now you have to recall also, there were pre-Kwame Nkrumah conferences that we had Gorke Nkrumah's son.
Yes.
Yeah, to come to Chicago.
I remember that.
Right. And then there was the regular formation of the conference that we created at the People's Church in Chicago, and the picture that's in our living room is a reflection of that. Ahmed had Kamal, in his arm, Kamal might have been maybe less than a year old.
Yes. Yes. And you know something, Pa, you know what we forgot to say earlier is the many, because you made that connection between the Nkrumah's conferences and the Nkrumah's newspapers. And you know, for many years, especially you and Ahmed and Kim, you all really did a great job on producing, you know, the Nkrumah's newspapers. And, you know, even though we're not doing it now, one thing is that they are housed in the Moreland Spingarn room at Howard University on microfilm, microfiche, I forgot which one. But they do have it, and they do have most all of our calendars. So that's wonderful, you know, and I'm so glad you made that connection because the newspapers were important, and you would do the pieces on philosophy and ideology and
ideology, yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Very wonderful.
Talking about it, there's a need for us to revisit that and see what we can essentially do, you know, to revitalize and revive some of these things that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
But the conference, I mean, we were looking at the things and the series of different people that we used to invite. I didn't know, for example, 1987, we invited Dr. Suleiman Yang, professor Howard University.
Oh, yes.
You know, to come and speak here. There was also, I don't know if you recall, Frank Tego, who used to work with Nkrumah in Ghana. Frank Tego was like a journalist, like a secretary to Kwame Nkrumah.
Yes.
Yes, who came also to one of those conferences in Chicago here. It might have been 80. So there were different things that we were doing, and that was all part of building. And what we just realized as well, that there were multiple parties that existed between 83 and 90 in Chicago that have disappeared.
Oh, yeah. No,
You know,
it's definitely true. And they would be a part of the Nkrumah's conferences and all.
Yes,
Do you know?
Okay.
And since we started talking about participants in the conferences, when I looked over all of our flyers and documented the organizations that were a part of it,
Yes.
looking back in those early years, we had so many organizations, liberation organizations that existed in Africa that had membership and organizations physically here in the U.S. So we're looking at the Azania People's Organization, AZAPO, grassroots community organization from South Africa. There was the Kwame Nkrumah Theological Foundation, the Black Consciousness Movement of Azania, Movement for Justice in Africa. They were located in Liberia, the Ghana Patriotic Front.
Wow.
Let's see, it goes on. It's just so many different organizations that we had. The Zimbabwe Institute of Development Studies. So we had those different organizations that were on the continent of Africa, had membership here in the U.S., and these organizations would also be a part of those early Nkrumah conferences, along with many organizations. Yes.
And you can tell that there was one that we had that was called Building a Pan-African Coalition.
Yes. That's what we're talking about again. It's so much needed.
It's needed,
isn't it?
Yeah, and that conference had a lot of Africans all over the world, different organizations, you know, that came to that conference to say, let us continue to build, you know, a coalition, a Pan-African coalition. And like you say, it is essential we re-examine that
Mm-hmm.
and then look at the different things that are all over the world, to cement, this time to not building and inviting them, but cementing a form of unification.
And that's exactly that point that we picked up again on, and thanks that history was there, because this is what our organization, Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, is trying to do along with other organizations. And that's of course, why the focus of the 2020 calendar is what it is, So we are in the process of formalizing a coalition, just like what was happening at the Nkrumah's conference a long time ago,
Yeah,
and it's needed much more today than ever before, isn't it?
That was the core, yes.
Yes, yes. Well, and you know what I was so proud of that we have to mention, and that is these conditions today. As Kim, you started off the Nkrumah's conference this year saying, but the coronavirus did not stop the Nkrumah's conference from going ahead. That it just is not going to stop us. We're just going to push forward. And so the most beautiful conference done virtually. And what happened this year. And it was magnificent. And I hope our audience got a chance to participate in it, because it was wonderful.
Oh, I thank you.
Yeah, we had 300, really, the first 3-4 days of it.
See?
So that was nice.
Yes.
Essentially, that's very good. That's very good for a continental Africa.
Mm-hmm.
To go, there are different mechanisms in terms of communicating.
Mm-hmm.
We hear that Africa is very, very warm. Maybe the corona will not stick, and we might move some of our work out there in public.
That's right. That's right. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to start putting out some joint things together too with all these other organizations. And we're so thankful for the work that you're doing, nonstop, consistent work throughout, the Midwest, and particularly Chicago. And we're going to bring on these folk who are in Virginia who are doing some work. So, because we just want to let people know, get a glimpse of what we do as an organization, as the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. So thank you, Kim and Pa.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Forward ever. Continued success. Can't wait to hear everything.
Listen, people really love your 10 minutes of the Kwame Nkrumah conference.
Speaking about African women, that's right.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to do that. And we mentioned that we're doing a virtual Watoto Uhuru Shule. So any young people from 2 to 3 all the way up to 18, we can connect with, and we can broaden this out virtually too. Isn't that right?
Oh, that would be magnificent.
Yeah,
Send us the link.
We started.
We'll see what we can do.
Yes, we started already 2 weeks ago, but dealing with the principles. But this is the first full week in terms of looking at identity, and that's tomorrow, and it's virtual. At 11, and it's short. About 30 minutes, because you can't keep these young people on that long. So we'll do that. We'll make sure that we are making connections like we should be doing.
That's very good. We should there's an ABC school in the Gambia that we work with.
Yes. Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful? Because it's, that's the
and
positive.
What we have been doing, we are just trying to donate masks, and they're struggling to reopen the school, but it's run by a dynamite sister that has worked to build independently a school of our own called the ABC School.
Appreciate y'all being here, and we, the contribution you make is what keeps us going. So we're so very thankful.
Well, yeah, Africa thanks you too. Well, we struggled, building these conferences took a long time. We past 2 days, we couldn't believe that we have done all this work.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
We did start. It should be 30-something years, but I think there were some 2 years that we missed out.
Well, that's going to happen. And but the people thank you, and we thank you, and we're so happy we all are part of the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. So
we're going to build it. We're going to build it.
That's right. That's right.
Especially on the continent.
That's right.
Yeah.
Forward ever.
Okay, African. Thank you.
Thank you.
Listen, let's talk about the school thing.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Sister Kim, Brother Paju. Really appreciate it. Right now, what we want to do is go to another circle and all the way in Virginia. I want to talk to Brother Maurice and Brother Neil. And they're going to talk to us about grassroots organizations. So, please welcome Brother Maurice and Brother Neil.
Greetings. Greetings.
How you doing?
How you doing? Welcome.
They're doing fine.
Beautiful. We already introduced the two of you, and we talked about you're discussing what you do there, the powerful, wonderful work you do in organizing our people there. So you have the floor.
Okay, well, we want to follow what Nkrumah points out in his letter in this letter that you have in your book, More Letters from Kwame Nkrumah. And in this one letter, he says that for Africans in the United States, there are 4 things that we should think about doing. One is to improve the conditions of our people. Another thing is to embarrass the United States and its imperialism. A third thing is to study and to promote study and organization. And the fourth thing is, if at all possible, and this to involve oneself in the armed struggle on the continent itself. So we try to do several things in that regard. In Virginia here, we are a state where Africans are 30% of the African population is rural. So one of the things that we try to do is operate inside the rural areas.
Oh, wow.
Since integration, you have 2 problems. Since integration, the schools themselves no longer do much in terms of African history and that sort of thing. And so our young people are lost in many ways, culturally and so forth. And also the rural areas all over this country are the base for the militias and all this kind of different types of fascist movement. So the more we work in those rural areas, the more strength we have to our people, and more we can weaken some aspects of our enemies. So we participated. One of the things we participated in was a march against racism in one of the very small towns. This was back in last fall, and we're doing some follow-up with that community, it's been difficult because of the pandemic.
Yes.
But trying to get them to see the value of organizing, that one activity should not be considered an event in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been trying to promote organization in that particular town. The other thing that we've been involved in, working with a number of the activists in this city. I've been involved in working around issues of prisons. We have people dying in prison, especially in prison with the older brothers and sisters, and in them, and we're trying to get some of those folks home. In the process of working with those folks, we've been able to get some of those lead organizers to, and some of those are older folks, and they remember Black Power period. So for us to talk to them about Pan-Africanism is not that difficult. So we've been able to get, and we've had some of those lead organizers on our radio show. We also, at one of the demonstrations, I met a young woman, who's a key activist, and through meeting her, we recently were able to meet about 8 or 9 student activists, and they are interested because we had a discussion outside. Everybody was masked and we sat outside and talked, and we talked about what they want to see in the long term, and their long term perspective wasn't that clear. So that was an easy way for us to get in there and talk about, not easy, but a way in which we were able to present them with Pan-Africanism as a solution that makes sense. Because as I noted, our generation also were protesting the same issues some 50 and 60 years ago. And so we need to come to a permanent solution and not merely go in and fight and then things die down a bit, then we come back another 50 or 30 years and fight the same battle again and again and again. So they were actually quite interested, and they wanted to, actually learn more. So we'll be following up in terms of that particular aspect. And the last thing that we do, and we've done this for some years, is we do a community study session that's once a month, and we haven't done it recently because of the pandemic. We're trying to figure out how to move it to online. But that's been effective, and one of our new members has come out of that actual study group. Mm. And what we're really trying to do is to 3 basic things. One, we want to recruit, and as we begin to, because we are a tiny organization here in this state, and so one thing we want to recruit, and as we get out, we meet people, and we are meeting people who have displayed a certain level of consciousness, even in terms of wanting to study, having that study desire, or wanting to be active and to change things, having that organizing and active desire. And we want to put those two together so we have people who are being active people of thought, active men and women of thought, and people who use this activity, as Nkrumah tells us, to use thought, use our ideology, use the teachings that we learn to shape and mold our activity.
That's
so.
Those, I was just saying that's wonderful. That's a added piece to, what we do wherever we are, because we talked about, conferences and celebrations that we do that's annual. We talked about propaganda that we produce all over. We talked about Watoto Uhuru Shule, the Children's Freedom School, because we got to deal with our youth. But this other piece that you, Brother Maurice, and others there in Virginia are focused on is very key, and that is person to person, people to people, grassroots organizing. That's the way people really get to know us and can ask us questions, and we can respond. So, that's some very, very, very valuable work that you're doing there.
Well, we're trying. We're trying to uphold the line. We're trying to keep the line out there, and we're trying to promote the Pan-Africanism, the Nkrumah notion of Pan-Africanism to our people. We have quite a bit of cultural nationalism here. It's pretty strong, it's pretty engaged, and so forth. So that and so the question of scientific socialism, the question of placing Africa at the center and putting politics in the lead is can be a difficult task. And I want to mention one last thing. We formed something called the Pan-African Unity Movement, and we brought together several different Pan-Africanist organizations and individuals of Pan-African, leanings, of all types. And what we do with that is we try to make sure that we have a kind of a joint calendar of things that we do throughout the year so we can support each other's events. And when we do that, we can have bigger crowds, and the bigger the crowds we have, the more we can recruit and so forth. And when we have some of those folks involved in our programming, and we are involved in their programming, so it gives us opportunity to give us more exposure.
Sure.
And I would like to add that Brother Maurice is very talented in that he has put together some very eye-catching propaganda that is quite distinct. It captures the lines very quickly.
Can you tell us, Maurice, about a few of those that you've done?
Sure. Yes. Thank you, Brother Neil, for shouting out the propaganda work. Yes. So I did develop basically club-like flyers or pluggers. That basically captured the attention of my peer group, honestly, because I know my peer group or my generation, they like to read stuff quick to the point. They don't, I'm not saying all of it, but majority of my generation, they like to, they like to read stuff quick to the point, and they like to understand what they're reading and like to see pictures to connect what they're reading. So I incorporate pictures, and incorporate Nkrumah's principles, but in a way that they can understand it and get to the point and try to connect Nkrumah's principles with our struggle and what they already know, basically. So that's what I incorporate with the propaganda, with the utilizing colors, Pan-African colors, and incorporating our culture and trying to progress the African personality within in the masses of our people.
See, that's beautiful. That's exactly what we need, because we do, Maurice, have to break down the language so that we can reach more people, because a lot of the language we use within revolutionary organizations. So those who might be outside, clarity is needed, simplicity is needed. And to be truthful, something short, if you're putting it in the hands of our people, even when we're at programs, somebody puts something in our hands, we want to look at it, glance at it, read it real fast and put it down. It can't be long and drawn out. So you're contributing a valuable service to the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party.
Oh, thank you. And I have to shout out our calendar, because that propaganda that I create cannot be possible without the calendar that we use. I cannot sit up here in front like I don't use information from the calendar to help produce these flyers. The calendar is a great recruitment tool. Honestly, we're in the process right now of trying to recruit a sister. She loves the calendar. I just spoke with her yesterday. Briefly, and she was like, "Yeah, I love the calendar. I'm eager to meet the rest of the group here in Virginia." So she's interested in joining. So I'm excited, and I'm fired up. We're going to continue to push Nkrumahism, So here in Virginia.
That's right, and we're going to bring you two back on one time so that we can just concentrate on the many activities that you're doing there, and because you just touch the tip of the iceberg. So we're going to come back, but we thank you so very much for your contribution and for taking time to be a part of showing the world really the extent of what we do as an organization. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mama D.
For whatever.
Back with never.
So in subsequent months, at times, with the help of invited revolutionary guests, we will discuss various revolutionary Pan-African organizations that are struggling throughout the world to bring about Pan-Africanism, which is a unified socialist Africa.
And we're so happy you were with us today. We had an exciting time reaching out to different parts of our organization or our organization in different areas. So we're so thankful you were here with us. And please join us next month when we will highlight the Zimbabwe movement of Pan-African Socialists.
Meanwhile, leave comments on our Facebook page. Visit our website, PRSPonline.org. Email us at panafricanrsp@gmail.com. Once again, that's PANAFRICANRSP@gmail.com. Like us on SoundCloud.com. Visit us on YouTube.
And remember, organization is the key. Join us, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, or some other revolutionary Pan-African Socialist organization. A union of African socialist states is on the horizon.
We have an education system that does not speak to the needs of African children. We want to be able to be who we are, talk how we talk, walk how we walk, live how we want to live, and be producers and providers for our children in the future. We want to be African.
When the weight of the world is on your shoulders, take the power within and then you say, no, I can make it African. When the pain in this world try to consume you, they can do what they want, cause I will never stop drawing, and we can make it African. From ancient love and family, we gave the world humanity. We made this world a sacred place. We gave the world philosophy. We gave the world its chemistry. We found a world of time and space. From pyramids to ancient seas, we gave the world integrity. So now we standing tall, yeah. We gonna make it. We African. When the world is on your shoulders, take a power within and then you say, no, I can make it African. When the pain in this world try to consume you, they can do what they want, cause I will never stop drawing, and we can make it African. Gaining knowledge yourself, I'm glad I'm African. Although I look at the world, I see what's happening. We the people who was taken from a shining culture, blew the noses of our ancient represented sculpture. Capture us with the tactic called divide and conquer. Men and women separated, treated with no honor. Wrote the middle passage, treated worse than animals. Stacked on top of each other, somehow we made it through. The pain and suffering, they tortured us in slavery. It's quite amazing, we stood up for natural bravery. Look at our people, the conditions we are living in. It's time to battle this world, it's time to shine again.